when you're given that option, when you go live, there's a model that pops up. I wonder whether anybody's giving you any feedback on that and whether it's a good or bad move.
Because not everybody wants to record their events. So, and also not everyone wants to notify their followers, but presumably you notify yours. Yes.
Yeah. Like, why would you not? You know, I mean, everyone needs more viewers, right? So anyway.
Depends what you're talking about.
There'll be some oddballs out there that are using Crowdcast for a very private sort of stream.
Oh, I could tell you so many things about that.
I bet you could. Very saucy stuff.
I have seen.
I can believe. Anyway, listen, well, we're live, everybody. So welcome to Brainfood Live on Air, bringing it to you every Friday, no fail. It is episode 260, and I'm super excited today, not only because it's the start of Euro 2024, which is going to just be a festival of football for the next 4 weeks, but also because we're going to bring back one of my favorite conversations we've had, I think, for all time on Brainfood Live, which is the future of job boards and job board advertising. Folks, if you didn't see this last time, please do watch the episode 1 of that, because it was one of the most stimulating conversations I think we've ever had on the future of where job advertising is going to go. We just had to do a part 2 on this. So I've brought back more or less the same people, but I've swapped a few people in and out because I wanted to get Josh into this conversation as well. So anyway, we're going to be talking about that later. It's going to be fantastic. If you're here and you want to know about what job board advertising is going to turn out into, or if you're into job boards and job matching and marketplaces and want to figure out where that's going to be, this is the right conversation for you. Okay, let's do some sound check real quick. I want to make sure everyone can hear me okay on Crowdcast. So let me know if everyone in Crowdcast audio and visual is fine. We should be on LinkedIn Live. Let me just quickly check whether that's the case. Yes, I am. I can actually see yourself on my LinkedIn, so that's great. I think we're live on LinkedIn. Audio LinkedIn, can you hear me okay? Let me know in the comments. We're definitely not on Facebook because basically I don't know how to do that anymore. And we are live on Twitter, so we should be good. Okay, everyone say hi and good. That's all good. Excellent. Let's get on with the show. All right, we have Louise Trions here. Great to see you, Louise, as always. You might as well introduce yourself for people who don't know you. Who are you? What it is you do?
I run UK Recruiter. I do the speakers for the Agency Expo. I work for Crowdcast, and I run Job Boards Connect.
Wow, she's like literally a polyglot on the recruitment tech scene. But you know what? You found yourself a very interesting sort of position, Louise. I don't think anybody does quite the kind of roles you do, but each one seems to be very, very interesting. So well done you on all of that. Okay, folks, before we kick off, we always have to thank our sponsors. Of course, Brainfood Live does not happen without companies stepping up and saying, we want to support this organization. We want to continue the conversation going. And today's sponsor is one of our favorite companies, actually very connected to this conversation. It is, of course, Vonk. And you know what? They're actually one of the mystery power players in recruitment, I think, because oftentimes people might not know who Vonk are because they are pretty much in the background powering a lot of the things that happen on the internet with regards to recruitment technology. That's by design. If you haven't seen Founders Focus with Tico Van Parson, do make yourself watch that show as well. You basically get a good idea what Vonk's all about. But why do I need to be speaking about Vonk when we have the new CEO of Vonk on waiting on the wings? And we can bring her on to tell us all about it. Let's see whether we can bring Ritu back on. There we go. Let's invite, and we should be all good. Yeah, very interesting. Again, I need to know more about all kinds of. There she is, Ritu Mahanka. Ritu, great to see you again. Having seen you like 5 minutes or so ago. Thanks for being patient with me and my my technical kind of snafus there. Ritu, why don't you introduce yourself, actually? Because you're quite a newcomer to Vonk, aren't you? So who are you? What does you do? What were you doing before? And what's your plans for Vonk going forward? Oh,
I think Ritu is muted. I can see the mute icon in the bottom right.
Thank you, Louise. Thank you, Louise. Well, thank you for having us, Hung. I love what you said about mystery powerhouse. I'm going to so steal that and use that every single time. But on me, I am Ritu. I have only just very recently joined Wonk as a CEO, 5 weeks, actually 28 working days. I'm delighted to be here. And in terms of my sort of just very quickly on me, I've been in sort of the HR tech industry over 2 decades. Was at Canaxa for 10 years, got acquired by IBM, was there for another 5 years. Then went to Glint, which is a massive disruptor in the space of people insights and people experience. Acquired by LinkedIn and had the pleasure of being at LinkedIn for 4 years after that, which was a tremendously amazing time. For a short time, I joined a diversity, pay equity, transparency tech company and set up EMEA for them. And here I am today with Wonk. I'm delighted to be here.
You are the personification of the hidden powerhouse in recruitment tech, Ritu. I actually didn't realize those companies you work for. That's an amazing journey. And what a wonderful opportunity that Wonk have of getting you on board. I wonder whether you could tell us a bit about it. I mean, what is Wonk to the outside world, and what do you think it is now that you've been there five weeks, Ritu?
Thank you, Hung. I would say, our mission is a really profound one, but very simple. It's about how do we help businesses and talent get connected faster and better. That's simply our mission, vision, and what we are really about. And we strongly believe that our success very much depends on our alignment with our customers and partners and talent more broadly. And in terms of what we do, it's really a win-win if I think about it. When it comes to our customers, it's the ROI is very much about cost, speed, volume, and of course, quality. And when we think about talent, how do we make that experience, particularly the top of funnel, a better experience? How do we get them more targeted jobs and help them apply faster, anytime, from anywhere? And how do we achieve this in terms of our win-win situation? I always say every recruitment challenge deserves its own solution. And that's exactly what Wonk has done in terms of our suite of products and services. First and foremost, it's very much about Wonk Job Post, which serves the large enterprises and staffing companies. And the challenge we're really trying to solve here is around high volumes, automation, evergreen jobs. And we do that through various aspects of our add-on within our job distribution platform, particularly around programmatic advertising, which is gaining massive traction across Europe. And Wonk's investment, particularly in direct apply, really aims to improve this conversion rate and provide better value. I know you'll talk about monetization a lot later on, but really shifting that approach from cost per click to cost per hire models to drive our revenues. So job post distribution is very much about multi-posting, programmatic advertising, direct apply, and social advertising. Our Wonk job marketing platform, on the other hand, is very much serves enterprises and mid-sized companies. And the challenge here is really about highly targeted, very many single jobs, perhaps, and then also bespoke campaigning. In terms of I won't speak about Wonk Copilot because I'm sure our CTO, CPO, amazing Bill, will talk a lot about that. But also Wonk recruitment marketing, that's very specialist services and expertise and advisory to our enterprise customers to strengthen their employer brand. And then finally, media buying is how do we help our customers consolidate all of their media buy through one contract through Wonk. And then that's all of our direct business. And then we also serve our indirect business through, I think we are now integrated into 35 plus ATSs with a white label solution, our hiring API, which we call Happy. And it's essentially making sure that Wonk is powered behind the scenes within these ATSs for all of their customers and partners. I'll take a pause and see if you have any questions at all.
No, I mean, actually, there's really good overview, Ritu. Well done on sort of covering all of that. I didn't realize sort of Wonk had so many different sort of solutions for different companies. But definitely people should be interested in Wonk if you are trying to improve the quality of your hire, reduce the effort it takes to manage the applicants. If you're looking to be more efficient with budget, Wonk is basically a solution that you need to check out. Jim, I think you shared a few things in the crowdcast there, so make yourself avail yourself of those things there. That's very those are the places where you need to go check things out. Okay, Ritu, listen, wonderful seeing you. Stay with us for the rest of the show. It's going to be interesting to have this conversation with everyone in the job board ecosystem. Let's see what they've got to say about the future of job boards and job board advertising. Thanks a lot for coming on, Ritu.
Thank you, Hung. Happy Friday. Take care.
That's great. I didn't realize the sort of the background that Ritu had, and also, you know, the breadth of stuff that Bronk were doing. Education every week for me at Brainfood Live. Anyway, Louise, let's get on with this. Reviewing the newsletter real quick. What did you read it last week, and was it interesting in any way? And if so, what?
It'd be really awkward if I said it wasn't interesting in any way. I'm not. I'm not going to do an Adam Gordon. I am going to keep it really quick. So one of the ones I liked was the IKEA co-worker game, where essentially you can work in their completely fake online store and get the experience. And it made me think about, 4 or 5 years ago, where those virtual reality headsets were the thing, and that there were like mining companies which were taking people into their offices. They'd put the headsets on and they could get the full immersive experience of being in a mine. But IKEA are doing it with their shop assistants in an online store.
I like that a lot as well. You can apply for this, folks. So they are. I think they set it up on Roblox. So it's basically a game. Lots of kids play Roblox. I think ideal for IKEA, because obviously IKEA is all assembling furniture, assembling everything. So very much on brand. Yeah, you can go in and like literally do an exercise that they're thinking is part of their recruitment sort of approach. So yes, why don't we use more creative ways to put your brand? I think very powerful brand building. And let's not forget, I think they probably profiled also who the IKEA buyers. Anybody who's young family, I reckon, you know, you can get stuff full of IKEA stuff. You're an IKEA customer at that point for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, brilliant kind of stuff. Okay, cool. What else was interesting, Louise?
The AI personalization fueling groupthink and uniformity from Marco, which was just talking about how I think it's only talking about Slack at the moment, but essentially how Slack is has got some features which encourage things like autocomplete, emoji suggestions, personalized search results, and I kind of felt that the answer was not what it was exactly what I'd expect, which is it doesn't foster creativity, it fosters groupthink. So kind of creating these echo chambers. And it is, when people talk about how these things are like Netflix, problem with Netflix is I just keep getting served the same stuff. So I want to see other stuff that other people are watching. If I accidentally look at what my 18-year-old's Netflix account, it's all absolute crap that she watches, and I get a completely different series of results served to me. So it's no surprise that it kind of like your world gets smaller and smaller the more that you rely on these types of technology.
It's a very interesting observation. It's part of the reason why I liked Last FM. If you remember Last FM, I think it's still going, but they were a Spotify competitor long time ago. But you could actually follow people, particularly, yes. And you'd be served what their recommendations were, rather than you just being in your own kind of self-reinforcing bubble. So I think it's very significant. Definitely your life gets less rich if you don't discover stuff. And I think this guy wrote a really important blog, because he was talking about the nature of accepting AI composition. AI composer on LinkedIn, or they're going to do that on Slack or whatever. Here's how you write a good email. If you accept that this is how it's going to be, then over time everyone's going to end up speaking that way. And that's going to go down to how you think as well, because you're going to just accept what the recommended ideas are and not explore what might be a little bit marginal. So I think a really important post. I think he made this really well. I do believe it's something that is worth exploring and thinking about yourself before you get lazy and start saying accept that AI compose. To date, I've never sent an AI composed message, and part of the reason is that it's like, yeah, I don't actually want to feed the machine. Not that I don't want to use it. I don't want to feed the machine. Anyway, give us one more, Louise, before we get into this.
I only have two. I thought you'd want to move quickly on to the other topics.
All right, that's fine. We'll keep it at that. Let's move on to this topic, future of job boards and job board advertising. Did we have Job Board Connect in between the two shows, by the way?
We did. Yeah. And
Give
some
us
of
a
these
quick
topics were
overview then.
discussed. Yeah. So that was our unplugged conference. So a bit more casual, a touch of true about it. Bill's true, with people having like a lot of breakout conversations and things like that. So that was a one-day event followed by the awards. And you were double booked. So I had your dinner.
I hope you enjoyed it.
It was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
Good
yeah,
stuff.
we're back in October with the annual conference.
What was interesting from those conversations? Can you share a few nuggets that you picked up during that session?
Well, I led the AI one because you weren't there. No, I was leading it anyway. And we were talking about the AI use in job boards. And I said, who's using AI in their job board? And one person put their hand up. And I was like, come on, you all are in some way. You're using some sort of machine learning, generative AI, you're all doing something. And I think there's this kind of still this perception that AI is a very big thing, that we've like bought this massive robot and it's in our offices, rather than the small ways that it's starting to permeate in all aspects of life. But no, it was good conversation. I didn't feel there was much really exciting going on. It's a company called Travel Time, who are a job board supplier. And what they look at is using AI to determine realistically how far away someone will go for a job. So looking not at the distance, but at the travel time. Yeah. And that was quite interesting.
Oh, that's really good. I like that straight away, because journey distance, it's not about distance necessarily. It's about what the transportation infrastructure is there. So, okay, cool. Let's get on with this. Well, we're going to bring on some of our guests here. There's so many people I'm bring on. I'm going to forget who it is that we need to talk to. But certainly Alexander's there. Let's bring him on. Well, I'm sure I saw Bill earlier. Where is he? This is so fiddly. Oh yeah, there's Chris. Let's bring Chris on.
I am going to show you how to use the wing hung for next time.
Yeah, but it's superfluous though, isn't it?
No,
it's just extra. Don't need to know.
No, it's not.
Alex, how you doing?
Hi, Alex.
Hey, how's it going?
Cool, man. Listen, whilst people are coming on, why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Hey everyone, Alex. I'm an advisor to job boards and aggregators on all topics around SEO, AI, Google Jobs, pretty much anything technical you can think of.
Yeah, good stuff. Great to see you, Alex. A wonderful person to follow on LinkedIn, by the way. And we have Chris here as well. Chris, wonderful to see you. Can you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Yep, Managing Director of RegTech Media, where I cover the recruiting space, and also I write and consult for job boards at jobboardsecrets.com. So.
And it's actually, you do some really good media, Chris. I think it's underrated. You're like criminally underrated on the media side. So feel free to share some of your media stuff on the chat, because I think people should avail themselves to it. It's really, really quite sharp and on the leading edge, particularly on this topic. We have Bill Fisher here as well. Bill, wonderful to see you. Can you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Yes, great to be here. Thanks for having me back, and thanks for the kind words about Vonk. We're really excited about what we're building. So I'm the CTO at Vonk. I've been in HR tech for, I guess, about 2 decades. Principally kind of worked previously in building AI ML solutions for within HR tech. Had the opportunity to do that at Dice after they bought our company, but now working at Vonk and working on delivering the vision that Ritu outlined earlier.
Yeah, fantastic. Great to see you here, Bill. And by the way, Bill was the one that sparked off this mini-series by his speculations on LinkedIn. So again, another person very much worth following, purely on those intellectual journeys. Really interesting. We have Josh Willows on the screen as well. Josh, great to see you. Quickly intro yourself, mate.
Yeah, sure. So I work for Veritone Hire. So for anyone who doesn't know who Veritone Hire is, because it's still a reasonably new brand, Veritone is a data and AI business. They purchase Broadbean's job distribution technology and PandaLogic's programmatic solutions. So Veritone Hire is the consolidation of those two. I work for growth in those in international markets.
Yeah, fantastic stuff, Josh. And finally, last but not least, Stephen Rothberg. Steve, great to see you. Quickly intro yourself, mate.
Founder of College Recruiter job search site and the co-host of the Inside Job Boards and Recruitment Marketplaces podcast.
And subscribe to that. Feel free to share that into the chat there. Again, I'm into job boards because I'm an amateur at this, and I'm just fascinated whenever I speak to people in the job board space, simply because I do believe they are, like, from a brain power point of view, some of the smartest people in industry, and it's just a pleasure for me to learn from those people. Folks, we had some. Let's start off with a few kind of topical issues. I got a message earlier, several messages this week to say, hey, do you see what LinkedIn are doing? Indeed, should I say? Indeed, charging like agencies now. And I thought, oh, what's all this about? Then I realized, you know what? This is actually relevant to what we're talking about because we wanted to figure out what the monetization future was for companies that are in that job board, job marketplace space. And it looks like, I haven't even verified it, but it looks like Indeed is starting to move towards this pay per hire approach rather than pay per click and all this charge per hire, so to say. What are our thoughts on that? Is that the natural step? Is the natural evolution of job boards to recruitment agencies? Is that where we're all going to end up going, do you think? What are your thoughts? Steve, you want to go with this?
Sure. I see Louise smiling because we've been having a really great discussion in the Job Boards Connect Slack group. So yes, Indeed has this sort of pay-per-hire model, but I don't see that as being part of their job board business. That they're kind of like introducing more of a staffing side of the business. Staffing businesses, agency recruiters are not job boards. It's a different industry. It's kind of like saying if you go to the grocery store and you buy a jar of marinara sauce and some dry pasta, take that home, cook it, serve it, that's the same as a restaurant. It's not. It's a different industry. I think the bigger news from Indeed with respect to job boards is the announcement from their CEO. I think it was maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and Hung, you sent a link out before about that, where they're going to be basically doing some value add pricing. They were referring to it as take rate, where they want to increase the percentage that they get paid when a candidate sees a posting on Indeed, applies to it, and later gets hired by the employer. They're saying that they're averaging about 1% of what that person gets paid in their first year, and they want to increase that to maybe 2-3%. So at the end of the day, what they're talking about doing is taking the salary data that they've made mandatory and using that to charge a different rate for the same kind of a posting. So an early career engineering job in Dallas, you'll pay a lower rate for that than a senior engineering job in Dallas, simply based upon the value that person, if hired, gets paid. But to be clear, they're not getting a placement fee. They're not getting a percentage of salary. They're still getting paid for the ad, whether that's on a per click basis or some other kind of advertising model. It's not a placement fee.
I think the click price is going to go up, right? I mean, how are they going to do this?
For more senior roles, for higher paying roles. Yes. So they'll make a lot more money if you're paying somebody $150,000 than if you're paying them $50,000.
So they discovered dynamic pricing? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it would be a form of dynamic pricing. They're based on salary. I think I would love to have been a fly on the wall when they decided to make salary data mandatory, to know whether they were thinking this far ahead, that they would be able to use that as a differential pricing model. I could see that. That would sort of play into the hands of that group, and I'm not in that group of the, Indeed is evil group, but I could also see somebody after salary data became mandatory saying, hey, we have this great data here. We could actually use this, kind of an unintended consequences aspect or outcome, where why don't we use this data to charge to charge clients that we're delivering more value to, charge them more, and make it essentially cheaper for clients that we're delivering less value to for lower priced roles.
Bottom line is going to be more expensive to use Indeed going forward. So for employers, I mean, that's just the fact.
For some roles. Overall, yes, they're definitely talking about increasing their revenues for sure.
Yeah, I still question their ability to. I still question their ability to actually
take rate. You know, where Chris Himes was talking about that, because it's very clear what it is, and I think that's fair enough. They're a business, and they're obviously hugely successful business. And in fact, you know, I think when the story of recruitment's being written, Indeed will have a chapter in there, so we have to respect their achievement. And yeah, they want a slice of this, so it's going to be very interesting. Bill, I thought you wanted to say something. Is that right? Do you want to just pop in?
Oh yes, so I am. Absolutely. So I agree with Stephen that probably the origin story on dynamic pricing probably emerged that way. So they were collecting salary data. And they thought, oh, this could be an interesting pricing model. But in terms of their ability to think in the future, I mean, I think they play chess, just better than anybody else in the industry. So I think they've always thought several moves in advance. The way I think about it is, when they started as an aggregator, they partnered with job boards. And then they had a real value proposition for job seekers. So they focused on the job seeker experience. But once they kind of extracted the value they could get out of job boards, they then thought we should move to a marketplace. But I think all of this is kind of the vision ultimately of connecting, let's say, 100 million companies to 1 billion job seekers. So I think they've always wanted to be the only player in between. But they did the marketplace. When they moved to the marketplace, they set aside again the job boards. They then worked with agencies, and now when they talk about Flex, Indeed Flex, like they've taken money from staffing firms to build their marketplace, and they've used that investment to then move into staffing. So I think they've kind of consistently, like they've just moved step by step by step through the value chain and positioning themselves to be that one player in between job seekers and companies, that's been masterful. They've really done a good job.
They execute brilliantly. I totally agree, Bill.
Alex, you just
I wouldn't say brilliantly, guys. No, I mean they screwed up the whole PPA rollout last year, so.
No, that's true. They're
at a point now where they're at a point now where they're so big that they're kind of stepping over themselves in a lot of these new rollouts, these products. So I question their ability to. They're still powerful, of course, right? But I don't know if they have the brain power there to really make some of these things work and execute properly for their client base out there. So I'm skeptical.
I think. Sorry, add into that as well with what you're saying there, Chris. It's because they've got to this side where they are so big that they're able to be a little bit more brazen with doing things like asking for more money for these kind of higher level positions. You tend to see this usually the UK market, the US market kind of regulates itself, where a job board wouldn't feel brave enough to go out on a limb and do this. Like we've seen it with Seek, for example. I've already tried dynamic bidding in Australia for years now, but it's because they had that kind of chokehold on the market. So it'll be interesting to see. And I think probably it's hard to say how seriously were they taking Google for Jobs. There was a lot of noise about that, but it seems like since that's now kind of gone behind the scenes again a little bit, LinkedIn are trying to do more at getting into the kind of lower level hiring market, and Indeed are trying to go up the chain. And the two of them are kind of battling for each other's audience. It kind of seems what the battle is now.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, you made a comment on the chat there about something about it being a staffing model list. Tell us a bit about that. What prompted you to make that comment?
Well, that I run a job board in crypto, or maybe, I don't know, I didn't mention it. So last year, we actually started doing placements for crypto companies. So they would advertise their jobs on the job board for free. And we'll then use a bit of GPT magic to, pre-filter all the profiles, not match, just pre-filter. I want to be very clear on that. Don't want a lawsuit sent at my direction. And we made 6 placements, which kind of was more or less twice the revenue that we normally do with job postings. So this model works for small job boards, and if I were Indeed, I would also try to move more to the right of the attract, hire, retain pipeline, because that's where the money is. And Indeed Flex is exactly what they do. It's an app where you can get jobs that Indeed is actually serving to you, so you can get actual shifts with a few clicks. We used to joke about this years ago, that it's going to happen at some point in time, and I think it's kind of obvious that Indeed would be the first to do that, because they have all the outreach to the people and then all the outreach to the employers. They are integrated along the whole ATS value chain, like, as deep as possible. It's just no risk, clear game for them to go that way.
It
Let's-
was about
um,
as, it was about as surprising
Louise.
as the sun rising in the east.
All I was going to say is there's plenty of very niche job boards who also have a recruitment agency offering as well, and that's not surprising. But is this not like a really obvious reversal of what Reed did?
What do you mean, Louise? Can you explain? I
Reed
don't know.
were a massive recruitment agency who set
That's
up a
right.
job board, and now their job board is, I don't know where they are. I mean, Indeed, LinkedIn, but why has it taken so long for Indeed to think, oh, hold on, these things are so similar? And I know, Stephen, you're not having it that they're the same thing, but the outcome's the same, isn't it?
It's not, though. It's not the same, because it's if a job board does the screening and selection and is paid per hire, that's a staffing business. It's a completely different way of doing business. It's a completely different way of getting paid. The incentive structure is completely different. You're essentially shifting work from the in-house recruiters to let's call it the out-house recruiters, and that's a staffing business. Again, it's kind of like the grocery store. You don't go in and buy dry noodles and a jar of marinara sauce and call that the same as a restaurant. It's food, it's calories, but one has service and one doesn't. One prepares the food for you and serves it to you and cleans up after you, and one just kind of gives you the raw materials. So a job board business is much more about self-service, both on the employer side and on the job on the candidate side. It's not completely black and white. And so I think where you and I 100% agree, Louise, is that there's a lot of gray in there. And I think what Indeed is doing here is moving more into that gray, more away from the job board business, kind of exclusively, more into the staffing. But let's remember that for a decade, maybe 15 years now, that Indeed has been owned by the world's largest staffing company. So I don't see this as being a fundamental change in the way they do business. I see this as being a new product offering.
Let's move on from Indeed for a sec. But just to let you know, there's a really good sort of investor update that Indeed did, I think earlier this year in March or May, one of the two. And there's lots of good video in there. It's a great slide deck. Chris Hyams was very clear in terms of laying out the vision. Well worth kind of having a watch of that. As to where the future direction of Indeed is going to go. And by the way, I forget who it was that mentioned the difference of market size, but absolutely staffing in terms of getting a percentage of the overall fee value of the staffing business is like something like times 10x that of the job posting value. So that's a bit of the market, the slice of that revenue is what Indeed are looking after. So well worth having a look at this. Okay, what about other ways that job boards can make money? What are your thoughts on this? We've seen of the pay per post. Now we're getting to pay per hire. What are the ways in which do you think people who own job boards might be able to innovate on monetization? Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I have a question for the group, actually. So I think that monetizing seekers is becoming a little more easier these days. I'm doing some work with a company called RightC now, which is a resume service company. And I think seekers are willing to pay for more things these days. So I'm curious from the group, What are you guys seeing as far as that goes? Do you agree with that? And give me some thoughts on job seekers.
I originally thought this was, the kind of thing that would be received really badly. And then I saw LinkedIn started giving the options last year for candidates to pay extra. And no one seemed to, there wasn't this big fuss that I thought there might be of, talking about equal opportunities and the candidates who can afford to pay and who can't, why should they get priority? So I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see other job boards try this kind of model. I mean, there's obvious first steps. It could be anything from just using a job board's data to help them write a better AI enabled CV, for example, is one option that they could look at. Being more getting more matches to jobs could be others. So there's a really easy way to monetize. It's more actually how's the market going to respond that's going to be a more interesting part of it.
Interesting observation, Josh. Any other thoughts on the monetization of the job seeker side? Is this underexploited by the job boards, and do you see it becoming more popular going forward? Thoughts on this, Alex? I mean, I wonder whether you've got an idea on this.
Well, I have seen a lot of job boards, entrepreneurs, one person doing a job board. It's a huge topic right now on Twitter. I don't know why this space is exploding. And some of them are actually paid job boards. And what they provide as a value proposition is that you will be the first to apply to a job. So it works very well in the remote industry where everyone wants a remote job, right? Especially if you don't live in Western Europe and you want to work for a Western company. So people are willing to pay. Whether or not this value proposition of you be the first to apply or you get these unique jobs only here if you pay, that's a bit blurry, to be honest. Someone who's done scraping for so long, I would say that most of these cases are not true. But if you're able to actually add additional filters that you, for example, build on top of data, you extract with your own ML models and give people opportunity to filter better, why not charge them? That's a great model. I'll definitely do that.
All right, let's ask the crowd on this. Folks, what do you think about charging the job seeker on job boards? Do you see, firstly, are you happy with it? Are you comfortable with it from an ethical point of view? And secondly, do you think it's useful? I think the LinkedIn example is exactly a good one to think about. We're watching this on LinkedIn, by the way. There was a scenario about, was it being more visible? Sort of if you're paid to be more visible or something like this. And yeah, what do we think? I mean, it feels like, I don't know. I'm very gray, kind of anti, but I'm thinking, you know what? It may well be that, you pay for a bigger profile. It seems like that's a normal thing, isn't it? Pay to host a video of you giving some information about your experience and so on. Is that something that's okay? Louise, go ahead.
It's a little bit like, I know I bang about recruitment agencies, but recruitment agencies, for years, people have said, why don't they charge the job seekers to get them a job? And there are people who do that. There's these outplacement services, but typically they charge the exiting employer. Or there's this kind of sports agent analogy where you get a cut of the place you place someone, the where you place someone next. And that has not become mainstream. So I think there's for various reasons, there's a kind of a pushback against charging the person who is going to get the job. So I think it becomes more challenging when that already exists in the job search space. I think Chris was going to add something else a moment ago.
Yeah, I was going to say a couple of things. Number one, I have a client in the diversity job board space, and we implemented featured resumes for them. Now, we only charge the seeker $5 or $10. That's I think it's $5 a month or $10 for 60 days to feature your resume. So if it's a very small amount of stuff, they will pay for that stuff. You add some value to them by highlighting their resume to employers. There's a company like Flex Jobs, of course, that has been charging job seekers for years for access to remote jobs, right? So if you have jobs that are harder to find or harder to get, you can definitely charge access to that. And other thing I want to mention was courses too. I've seen some job boards do courses. If you have a certain skill set, if you get certified in something, you can do a course around that and make money off that as well. So a few ideas out there.
Well, there's another example, right, that's a bit newer, which is paying for verification is something we're becoming more used to. People do it on X. Like, why would you not pay to be verified that you have like a HGV driver's license or certain accreditations? So that's something that a lot of corporate businesses are crying out for, is like more verification for those kind of hard skills. So you would benefit massively as a candidate if you were verified and you paid to do that. Like, you'll be much more likely to be contacted by employers in that scenario.
Totally, yeah.
There's a huge difference between charging the job seeker for a job versus charging them for job search assistance. And I think that, the other guests have done an awesome job of providing some examples of that second group. But even the charging job seekers for a job, in many jurisdictions, that's illegal. I think I saw somebody say that in the UK since 1973 or something along those lines. But just because it's illegal, and I think probably most of us would agree that it's immoral in the UK and in other somewhat similar countries, it actually is the norm in many parts of the world. Like, you go look at the job board models in Africa, and it's very common where the job seeker is charged and employers post for free. So the job board in Africa, their job is mostly to take a posting that might run for 2 days and get 1,000 applications and whittle that down to a manageable number for the employer. So the employer posts for free and the job seeker pays what most of us would consider to be a nominal fee. But for a lot of people in those areas, it's actually a pretty significant amount of money.
Do you know what? So maybe it's got something to do with the market dynamics, where if there's a surplus of candidates, surplus of labor, for instance, therefore the value of the labor goes down, perhaps, and the weight of the effort of the advertiser is larger because you process all those applicants. So you can throw in some sort of method of paying in order to suppress the numbers of people there. I think the ethical thing is it's important one to deal with, but we can't solve the problem in the course of a Brainfood Live. I think it is the case that is starting to creep in, because we're paying to verify. And as you mentioned, Josh, I think that kind of educating us that maybe, paying to play is part of the game. And by the way, paying to play has always been part of how a lot of people have got jobs in the past. You pay to get into private members clubs. You pay to get into the golf club. You pay to get into those exclusive places in order to accrue the networking, the social capital, which you hope to convert at some point into material return. It's just, we haven't probably seen it as digital as this and as formal as this, but there's another way in which you might be able to monetize. Listen, we're going to go into more monetization strategies in a minute, but we always have to take a mini break in the middle of every Brainfood Live because we have to come off air at some point. We don't want this conversation to stop. We want it to continue with everyone else who is interested in this chat. So now is the time, folks, where you can grab your LinkedIn URL, stick it in the chat stream if you're watching this on Crowdcast. If you're watching this on any of the LinkedIns that are out there, grab your LinkedIn URL, stick it in the comment thread, and then just make sure you connect with everyone who's done the same. I hope you're already aware we've got some amazing brains on screen and in chat that you should connect with, and you'll simply be better educated by just being in their feeds, essentially. So make sure you go ahead and do that. Bill, I want to get to you and your idea that maybe job boards can make money through a completely different way of working, which is, licensing data to train AI. Can you explain what your thoughts are on this, Bill?
Certainly. We talked in the last episode, we talked about a large language model wants to help somebody provide a service. So they could provide the service to help somebody write a CV or to write a job description. But to do that, they need data, like the data you find on a job board. So that's one route. Providing that data to a large language model, that's one simple route where it could help the large language model get better at providing some of the services. But job boards also have extra data beyond just the content they publish. They might have click data, they might have disposition data, where do the candidates go? And this could add another layer to the value that a large language model provides. So instead of just, if you go to a large language model or you go to ChatGPT, you just say, write me a job description, not only could it just write a job description, but it could look at job descriptions that have performed really well. Or if it's tracked to hire, could a job description that not only gets engagement, clicks, but also seems to deliver quality candidates. So it could really help refine that service. So I think that's really interesting. That the ATS also has access to that type of data. So I think it could help just make the chat GPTs of this world better, and they would pay money to get that extra data just to provide a better set of services.
We've already seen this method, haven't we? Like, for instance, what might spark the initial idea was Stack Overflow's deal with, was it OpenAI? I forget who it is that they did a deal with. Stack Overflow, of course, are really a Q&A site and a community, but they were a job board. They had that function, and they're basically saying, we have all of this data from all of our users, and we need to monetize this, or we can monetize this. Why don't we just use this to help feed this machine? And potentially, you look at any job board, let's say even a niche job board like yours, Alex, crypto jobs or whatever, you got a lot of information on how crypto professionals think and behave in terms of what jobs they like, this, that, and the other. That click data, that behavioral data could potentially be used for someone who might be interested in training a language model with that. So, and that could replicate, of course, across any size and scale of job board, depending on how big or small you have it. I haven't seen any job board yet make this try to kind of deal, probably because they're trying to do it themselves. But do you anticipate someone making this deal, like a big job board that we recognize, saying, right, we're actually going to do a deal with OpenAI? Thoughts on this?
Well, what are they going to sell exactly?
Behavioral data, I would guess.
Oh, but it's not an LLM input, right? Behavioral data is like input that you use in traditional predictive models. They would say, if you click this, you would click that. That's not what an LLM does, right?
I don't know, man. What's your critique? You got to dumb it down for me, Alex.
I'm very skeptical on this one. I mean, you could sell job descriptions, sure, and say this one perform very well. So let's train an LLM on these set of job descriptions, so that hypothetically the future will write better ones. Could be a good use case, but how do you know which is good or which is bad? Just because click on it?
So Indeed is really well positioned in that they not only have job seekers and those CVs, but they also have the revealed preference of what jobs they're interested in. And then for the employers, they know what type of candidates they're interested in. So if you're using the large language model as a matching layer, having that extra metadata, if you will, could be really, really powerful. So I mean, something I was thinking about, the Apple's announcement. So iOS 18, where they've introduced AI into the ecosystem. I think what that does is it allows for more advanced agents to be built. In the example would be you could just pick up your iPhone and just say, I hate my job. The iPhone will go, do you want to find a new job? And you go, sure. It'll then go to LinkedIn. It'll print a PDF of your profile. It'll then go to a job board app. It'll then take your LinkedIn profile, do the search for the job, and then it can go ahead and apply. So I think there's this layer of services that if you have this extra data that are going to be facilitated in the future. But partly makes me think the job boards might need to think about App Store optimization and not so much SEO, that a source of organic traffic could just be these agents that are built into the iPhone that are facilitating job applications.
I think Jobs Person created a HR-based chatbot called Galileo that took all that research and stuff like that. They did like someone's going to build like a career coach version of that, I think, for seekers at some point, whether it's a job board or just a startup. I think we could see that in the market in the next couple of years, just bringing in salary data and resume advice and who's hiring now, right? That kind of stuff would be interesting, I think.
Even on the flip side, looking at kind of LMM, like there could be like an advertising coach, because I've looked at this, like how long have we been saying like improving job adverts? Well, through LLM, you should be able to have multiple job adverts live at any one time. So like an example could be how job boards can benefit from this. we talk all the time about increasing like diversity or making job ads more open. And the only option we have today is to try and do a better version of a one size fits all. There's no reason why you wouldn't be able to tailor an advert, or a job board could help customers tailor adverts to different audiences. So neurodivergent audiences, for example, making adverts more concise, to the point, more simple. So it's making sure that you kind of get your adverts open to everyone rather than that. And that should be fairly simple in theory to be able to do from that, and could be like a premium diverse service that those kind of job boards offer.
If I might sort of add to what Bill was saying a couple minutes ago about the job ads and the data. One of the things that a lot of recruiters do today and have done for years and years and years, because it was really the best way of handling it, is if you're looking for, again, engineer in Dallas, and you don't have a good job description for that, perhaps it's the first time you've worked on that rec, maybe it's been years and years since your employer has hired for that role. What a lot of recruiters will do will be to go to LinkedIn, they'll go to Indeed, they'll go to another job board, and they'll type in, engineer Dallas, and see what ad comes up first in the search results. What that informs you is which job ad has the best SEO, which job ad is going to come up highest in the search results. And that's okay if that's your goal as the employer, but I think more employers would be interested in which job ad actually gets clicked on, viewed more often, and even more so which one gets clicked, like the apply button, so that the candidate is actually showing that there's actual real interest, real engagement. They're going over to the ATS. Then you start to get different opinions, because some employers that are more interested in the branding value, that's kind of where it stops. But employers whose metric of success, their KPI, is going to be on the number of applications they receive or their effective cost per application, their metric that they're going to look for is how many candidates actually applied. Other employers, and I think this is now we're getting into a quality discussion, how many of those were interviewed? And then we get back into the Louise and Stephen conversation, how many of those were hired? So different employers have different goals, and just which ad comes up at the top of the search result, I don't think that's a very good goal for the vast majority of employers. But that's it's kind of what we've been stuck with. But if an Indeed, if a Veritone, if a Vonk can actually say, hey, if your goal is to minimize your effective cost per application, this is the job ad that you want to replicate.
Hey, Hung, Matt Paddock in the chat there has a good point. A missing link AI should encourage his network analysis between LinkedIn and the job boards, getting to the who do you know at this org, or who could introduce you. So quick story of years ago, after I sold my El County Jobs job board back in like 2012, 2013, I started a site called Career Cloud. And one of the products I had was Jobs with Friends, where I took your Facebook feed, your friend list. This is when the OpenAI was there, and I matched it to Indeed listings. And you could basically search your friends' network in terms of jobs that they had open based on their company names. Facebook shut that API down, so I had to shut the service down. But that's a great avenue there for job boards. I was building one today. I do something like that to help people get connected there that way.
Yeah, we're starting to get like follow companies now, aren't we? So the job boards of the currency of job boards has been job ads, but maybe in future, it doesn't necessarily need to be a job ad for an applicant or someone to be interested in a company, and it could the company might be able to make a job for this individual, or potentially take an existing job and shape it according to the availability of this unique resource. We talked at the beginning of the show about the work Louise is currently doing. Probably no one's going to design a job that is what Louise is doing right now, but if she was available on the market, I dare say someone would do that. So it's almost like, and actually I think LinkedIn do the same, don't they? You can follow companies now rather than apply for jobs. I don't know what implication that is, but I believe that means that the recruiter for that company, you're in a database of some description, and you're more discoverable. So it's a signal that you are more interested. It's a different signal to apply, but it's a similar it's somewhere in between not applying at all and putting a job application in. It's like you're open to have a conversation in some way. So yeah, very, very interesting future for this. Okay, let's accelerate to the future, and we're talking about agents. Let's say we all have agentic AI in the phone. Maybe it's an iPhone, maybe it's an Android, I don't know. But here is an automated thing that's been trained on our behavior, and we can firstly instruct it to do things, but it can also act on its own behalf based on its perception of our best interest. How does that affect job boards? So imagine a situation where this thing is like measuring my heart rate or something whenever I open my email, and it kind of tells me, oh, Hung, your heart rate really goes through the roof. You really hate opening email. Therefore, you really hate this company, I assume. We're going to start reactivating you and start putting touch points out there. How do you, what does the world of job boards on the employer side look like there? Do job boards still exist, do you think? Or do employers have their own agents out there trying to connect with other agents? Like bear in mind, a job board is really the interlocutor between the two parties. But in a perfect marketplace, they don't actually exist because the two parties can interact with each other. So what do you think of the world of job boards and job board advertising in the realm of agentic AI? Let's go around individually because we should do a round robin on this. Louise, I'll come to you last on that. Alex, do you want to go with this?
Yeah, I think it's a huge opportunity for new business for job boards. So I would look into my organization and see how I can introduce APIs so that outside services can talk to my candidate database, and then think about how I can make this candidate database attractive. So more up to date, verified, whatever I'm trying to sell, whichever niche I'm covering. And this will unlock new business opportunities. So build APIs, people, so that these agents can talk, because they need some kind of structured entry into this data that you have.
Yeah, excellent stuff. How about you, Chris? What are your thoughts on this future with agentic AIs everywhere? What happens to job boards?
I think anytime a job board can push out that candidate data to somewhere, people to find it. I think HireEZ just had to deal with Monster and a few other job boards to source their databases internally into their site. So I see more of that happening, and just exposing that data, bubbling it up for sourcers and employers out there. And I think it's a good thing. And I want to see more of that.
Yeah. How about you, Bill? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think going back to Indeed, just briefly, if they're moving into staffing, and the problem with the staffing business is it's such a low margin, it's such a high touch, low margin business, that they must be thinking about agentic AI replacing a lot of the processes that happen with staffing. So the sourcing part, the communicating part, the assessment part. So I think that's going to play a big role. I agree with Alex that job boards need to find a way to make their data set available to these types of agents. Again, to go back to the Apple announcement, building agents in the wild is kind of tricky. If they have to perform a Google search and then close do you want the cookie window and then run a search, and there could be a lot of dependencies. But if it's all within the Apple iPhone ecosystem, where it opens up the LinkedIn app, it opens up a job board app, it does that, it kind of pairs those, performs a search, conducts the apply. You could even schedule the interview. All of that can just happen within that ecosystem. I think it really accelerates the adoption of agents in this space. So it pulled forward my thoughts on how quickly we're going to move to the talking to bot world versus having all this running in the wild.
Yeah, Marion here in the chat reckons it's 5 years. I think that's very I underestimate it by a long way, I would say. I think we're very close to having agent-to-agent conversation, even if it's crude and horrible. But I think that's 12 months away. Josh, your thoughts on agentic sort of AI and job boards?
Yeah, I mean, I know when we're looking at things, we definitely see things like even from like an assistance or co-pilot perspective, like this is coming. So I think it's all going to be in like the partnerships, right? Everyone said it. I think that job boards are still in like pole position of understanding what job seekers want, and they should have much more volume to understand this than a direct employer. Because I think in this scenario, it's those two different areas, right? So it's the same reason why I remember being asked tons of times, like when a job board's going to die, and it's like there still has to be a place where active job seekers come and find jobs. And at the moment, they're doing a better job of doing that than corporate websites. And it's the same as SEO, right? So I think as long as they're pushing the needle and they're at the forefront of it, they're actually in a great position. And I think they're going to be more agile and malleable than a lot of corporate businesses are, who, let's be honest, are going to be scared stiff of AI policies and other areas in order to start adopting this at a wide scale.
Yeah, very good observation, Josh. Finally, Stephen, your thoughts on this?
I think that we're going to see this evolving differently than some of the other opinions. I think that there's going to be a big move by candidates not to hand over their data, whether that's to job boards or to other third parties. That job seekers are going to demand that they own and they possess and they control their data, rather than registering with job boards and then having the job board do the marketing. It's going to create a problem for job boards that rely on candidate registrations and to then essentially spam out job match alerts and then get candidates to apply to those jobs. I also don't see these agents as being separate from job boards. I think it's quite likely that this is going to be a product or perhaps even an evolution that job boards will evolve into. I don't think that we're going to see as many candidates going to job boards. I think we're essentially going to see job boards going to candidates through the agent. Job boards, as Jeff Dickey Chazen's the job board doctor will describe us, we're like amoebas that we kind of exist, continually evolve, and absorb things that are around us. Our technology, with apologies to those who think that job boards haven't changed since 1996, the technology has changed massively. And it's a very, very dynamic and very adaptable industry. People who are frustrated that job boards don't evolve probably are using the same job board they did in 1996, and they're probably using it in the same way.
Yeah, really good. And by the way, I was thinking about getting Jeff, the job board doctor, onto this show, but the time zone is just not working out. I didn't want to get him up out of bed too early, but we'll find a way to do that. Louise, I'll come to you in a sec, but I want to just thank all of our guests for this conversation. What a fantastic sort of exploration it really is. We're in a really interesting space in the job board world, and I give credit to anybody who's running a job board and part of that community. I think it is fantastic. I do believe that having that sort of opportunity to connect with each other is very powerful. So very well done on you, particularly Louise, for creating some of the space for that to happen. I absolutely think that that needs to continue. And for non-experts like me who are just entering and touching into this job board space, please make sure you follow these folks, and please make sure you get involved in it in some way, because you're going to learn how essentially a critical part of our ecosystem operates. And it's at the leading edge of how recruitment really is. So do make sure you do that. Okay, let's say goodbye to our guests. Thank you very much, Alex. Thank you very much, Chris, Bill, Josh, and Stephen. Wonderful to see you all. Thank you for sharing your incredible knowledge. It's been fantastic. Let's say goodbye to these folks. Great stuff. Louise, I saved the best to last. Save the best to last, my dear. Agentic agents and Robo Louise. Do we see Robo Louise going out there looking for work? And what does that look like for job boards? How do you see it?
I definitely think it's coming. I agree with everything everyone said. That was a superb panel. I'd happily have them all speaking at my event. I think it's definitely going to come in some form, but I have to truly, truly believe that humans are still important in this process. And I think that will be what will happen in these intervening 3 years, if you believe Jim, 5 years, if you believe other people, whatever you think. In those intervening years, the humans will still exist, and we will work out how to use this alongside what is still successful, which is putting people together with people. We might reach a future where there are no recruiters and there are no job boards, because maybe we will tap into exactly what flicks someone's switch and what a company needs and match those two people together.
Do you know what? But if we get to that point, there won't actually be any jobs. No. They won't, right?
No.
There might be activities, like there might be just a task. Let's imagine you're in a situation where you have capacity to do X and the machine knows what that is. It may match you to a buyer of X, and you go ahead and do X then. But it's not a job full time. It's just very episodic. So yes, fascinating. I need to ask you a question on Robo Louise. How close is that? Are you doing anything with automation or training AIs in some way to participate in your own sort of work?
Yes, but it's interesting. At Team on Friday, I ran a panel about marketing, and I asked them all the question about how you would use AI, ChatGPT, whatever, in your marketing. And most of them said they wouldn't and they weren't. And most of them probably are and they do. And I think there's a tranche of people who want to showcase what they're doing with tech, and there's some people who are worried that they shouldn't be using it because they want to have artisan skills. But I absolutely would be. So for Crowdcast, we have a ton of support documents. People like to watch a video version or an audio version. Use HeyGen to generate those. The show reels for my shows, clip them together using AI. I mean, do you take these episodes, download them, and chop them up with AI?
No, but I should do, shouldn't I?
You could. Opus. So use a tool like Opus. Just hack them all up, get them out there. You still need a human, to look at what's good. But even on the sort of stuff we're doing, we should be using
I would entirely trust Opus. There's no there's no hung quality control here. Just get it out there, chum it out. The high volume, variable quality. That's the Brainfood brand. All right.
No.
Louise, listen, it's been great having you. I don't know when we're next catching up. Breakfast, right? So we're going to see each other then, if not before. But yeah, thank you so much for stepping into doing this. I'll get you in every time for these types of shows. I think you're perfect co-host for it because you've got the knowledge of this particular space. So we'll make sure that happens. Okay, Louise, let me let you go. Great to see you. I'll see you soon, okay? Okay, everybody, thanks for watching. Coming to the end of this, we will be back next week. We've got Founders Focus on Wednesday, I believe. This is with Bob Hyman over at Sapia.ai. It's one of the most impressive artificial intelligence startups out there. And I mean that very seriously, because I think they've actually applied it in such a way which makes sense to everybody, candidate, employer, and software vendor. It's a really impressive product coming out of Australia. Bob will be doing a Founders Focus with us one-to-one, so we'll be getting to know her founder's journey. And on Friday, Brainfood Live, back again. We're going to be talking about how to select and implement an ATS. Would you Adam and Eve it? It's one of the most popular questions that gets asked on Brainfood Live, sort of the Brainfood online community all the time. How do you do this? What's the best ATS? What do I need to do in order to implement this successfully? Guess what? We've got Patrick Bounster, who makes a career out of implementing ATSs and advising companies how to do it. He's going to give us a walkthrough and a masterclass on this. So 1 hour of free consultancy for you. Make sure you register for that show if you haven't already done so. Follow this channel. That's how you get notified whenever we go live. And yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. And good luck everyone who is supporting their countries in the Euros 2024. All right. Thanks for watching.